Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's been raining for a week and none of this was in my December plan. I've had the worst cabin fever because I've been trying by all means to stay indoors. I really hate the wet weather. I hate being out in public and feeling cold and feeling annoyed. And like it's really messing with my December because I imagined that December would be about having my feet up, sitting by a pool with a bottle of champagne or two, and clear skies and sunny skies. But none of that has happened. We've had rain for a week, much appreciated, I have to say. The dry season was getting a little bit intense. So I really appreciate the rain because that has helped me catch up on lots of admin and lots of reading. So I actually just want to share with you my 2019 reading list. Some of these books I actually am repeating for the fourth time because they've really just had such a huge impact in my life over the past, say, 5 years. 3 years, maybe, if I'm being like realistic, because in the past 3 years, I made a decision that from now on, everything that I invest my time in, I'm going to make sure that it nourishes me from the inside out. I'm going to apply everything I learn, and I'm just going to immerse myself in lessons that I can carry forward or that I can apply in my life in order to just make my life better. So in no particular order, I'm going to get right into it, and I hope you'll be inspired to add some of these books to your 2020 reading list. And yeah, that in 6 months from now, we'll be able to change or exchange notes on what you've learned. And I can tell you some of the stuff I've learned, and we can see if there are synergies between, books and maybe even spirituality. So let's get right into it in no particular order. So at the beginning of the year, I came across this book and I really loved the title, The Power of Being Thankful by Joyce Meyer. I was particularly looking for a book of devotions because I was doing my Daniel fast at the beginning of the year. And I just wanted something that would help me be grateful or remember to be grateful for everything, all the blessings that I've had in my life. I don't want to lie, it's really been a good season of blessings, and I am thankful and I am grateful and I am happy about the way things are going in my life. So when I stumbled across this, I was like, this is going to serve as a really good reminder to continue being faithful, because my strength has been increased over the has been strengthened rather over the past few years. And this book literally just has daily devotions for each day of the year, and some of them have actually been right on time, like to the day, to the time of the day that I read them, like to what's currently going on in my life. And I really appreciate that this is literally one of those books that I'm going to be able to read for a lot of years to come, and the devotions will still be meaningful. They'll still mean the same, and it will serve as a reminder on the days that I forget to be grateful that there's actually quite a lot to be grateful about. I mean, just look at this. It's impossible for love to fail. Don't worry about the future. Simplicity and decisions. Love isn't always convenient. The wonderful person God says you are. I mean, this book is going to mean something probably for the rest of my life. So I got this from Bargain Books, The Power of Being Thankful by Joyce Meyer. 365 devotions for discovering the strength of gratitude. The power of being thankful and what I know for sure are actually what I've dubbed my bedside reads. Oprah's always going on about bedside reads and the books that she keeps in her kitchen and all of that. So this is particularly my bedside read, what I know for sure. And as you can see, it's flagged all the way, but generally flagged on the pages that have meant something each time I've picked this book up. So I got this book from my dear colleagues when I was working at AvBob. This was like a goodbye present, and it was right on time because when I left AvBob, I was at a point in my life where I just wanted a challenge, but I particularly just wanted to focus on purely running my business. I was also a little bit confused as to whether I wanted to stay in corporate because of the stability, or whether I really just wanted to pursue sister-in-law and collective intelligence to see if I really could commit to being an entrepreneur without, depending on the stability that comes with working in corporate SA. But I eventually made the decision because every single time I picked up this book, I would land on a particular page. Let me see if I can find it. I hope it's one of the flagged ones. Where is it? Okay, found it. Here's the page. This page, I keep landing on it. It's even flagged, as you can see. I keep landing on it, and I'll just read it for you. It says here, how can I realize my potential more fully? That's a question I still ask myself, especially when contemplating what's next in my life. In every job I've taken, in every city which I've lived, I've known that there's a time to move on when I've grown as much as I can. Sometimes moving on terrified me, but always it taught me that the true meaning of courage is to be afraid, and then with your knees knocking, to step out anyway. Making a bold move is the only way to advance toward the greatest vision the universe has for you. If you allow it, fear will completely immobilize you. And once it has you in its grip, it will fight to keep you from ever becoming your best self. Guys, I landed on that piece so often, so often, that I eventually just made the decision that I wanted to leave corporate SA and pursue the highest vision that the universe had for me. And honestly, I have no regrets. I've grown so much as a person. There is actually nothing that I haven't pursued, or there's no idea that I haven't pursued and it not worked out, only because I made the conscious decision to park fear to the side and to literally go out into the world and look for what the universe has in store for me. I no longer wanted my ideas to just be roaming the universe. I no longer wanted anybody else to grab onto my ideas and to use them to their benefit, because I've just left them roaming in the universe. And here I am pursuing my, my biggest dreams for myself, and most of them are becoming a reality. And it's really just through some of the lessons I've learned and what I know for sure. I don't want to make this video too long, so I can't go through everything I flagged. But also, one of my favorite quotes in this book are about gratitude. And it says, if the only prayer you ever say in your life is thank you, that will be enough. I don't think that was by Oprah, but that was definitely a quote which stood out for me, which she has as one of the introductions to one of the chapters in this book. Seat of the Soul is very interesting because I bought it maybe 4 years ago, but in buying it, I never quite picked it up. I was just like, I'm not ready for this book. And that is what I do with hundreds of books, guys. Like, my husband is like, the other day he was like, you need to find space for these books. I don't have a bookshelf. I've been promising myself to build one for the longest time, or to get one built, because I have a specific one in mind that I want. But my books are everywhere because I wait for the universe to tell me that it's time to pick up a certain book. And whenever I pick up a certain book, it is always on time. So I could have 10 books that I've bought in the previous year, then one day walk into a bookstore, buy one, and commit to that. Just hold on, my kids are knocking. Sorry about that, it was the kids. So I could, have 10 books, keep them at home, they can gather dust, not open any one of them, then walk into a bookstore, pick up one book, and that becomes the book that I'm gonna commit to that month or that season. But with this one, it's been chilling. And I picked it up at the beginning of last year, so 28. At the end of 2017, I picked up this book and I was blown away. This is the only book, this and this, A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle, are like two of Oprah's favorite books. Now, everything that she speaks about that has to do with intention, living an intentional life, you'll find it in these two books. Flagged once again because I think I'm like an academic of reading, if there's such a thing, but this is flagged once again because these two books actually speak to each other a lot. I understand why Oprah swears by them, but the stuff that Seed of the Soul has about understanding your ego, understanding your soul, separating your personality from your soul, living an intentional life, basically around the theme that whatever you put out into the universe is what you will get. So if things aren't going quite well in your schoolwork and you say, I'm going to fail this semester, a lot of the time you're failing because you've already put it out into the universe and now you don't want to disappoint yourself by passing, if that makes sense. So you just end up failing the semester. Or you'll say things like, this relationship won't work or this marriage won't work. And sometimes that has a lot to do with, your intentions and your vibrations that you put out into the world. And now because you don't want to disappoint your soul or your spirit, or your ego, you end up just getting a divorce or walking away from a relationship because you've already told yourself that it won't work. So these books have been my guiding star, if I can say, in terms of just being intentional. They are the books behind why I am very, very committed to my vision board and to journaling. This specific book, I picked it up for the first time in high school. It still looks very, very, very brand new, but I've read it about 3 times. I have to admit, in high school when I read it, I was like, what on earth is Oprah talking about on her show? I don't understand what's going on. Why are we told to appreciate the life of a plant? What's going on? But now I understand what she meant, or what was meant in this book. Just appreciating the small things in life, but also appreciating that there's life in everything we interact with. And the vibrations of a plant have a lot to do with our own vibrations. So sometimes you will be so present in the moment that you'll literally be able to understand why that plant looks the way it is. It's just an example that I'm giving you, but I've really, 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 really enjoyed these 2 books. Intention, a lot of the time they also help me identify and notice when my ego is getting in the way of something. So I've been able to step back and separate the ego from the situation, if that makes sense. Very, very good with that. And the Untethered Soul by Michael Singer also just ties in with this, about the ego, about intention, about stepping away from certain things if you notice that it is your ego speaking, and just about living in the present moment, because the past has no bearing on us and the future hasn't happened yet, so it can't possibly have any bearing on us. So these books always bring me back to myself. I have to admit, they always bring me back to myself, especially when my ego gets in the way of me living my best life, being happy with friendships, being happy with relationships, being happy with school commitments, work commitments, family commitments. These books have definitely brought me back to myself a lot of the time. So in the Untethered Soul, there is one page of this book which made me realize how simple everything really, really, really is, and our role in just making life the most complicated thing. And oh hey, my nails match with the book. Oh cool. But yeah, with how we've just complicated everything in life, it's not that deep. Sometimes you just need to take a step back and realize that this life thing is probably quite simple if we just allow it to be. So here is my favorite passage in this whole book of 300 pages. On page 226, I was like, yo. Okay. The higher spiritual path is life itself. If you know how to live daily life, it all becomes a liberating experience. But first you have to approach life properly, or it can be very confusing. To begin with, you have to realize that you only have one choice in this life. And it's not about your career, who you want to marry, or whether you want to see God. People tend to burden themselves with so many choices, but in the end, you can throw it all away and just make one basic underlying decision. Do you want to be happy, or do you not want to be happy? It's really that simple. Once you make that choice, your path through life becomes totally clear. Guys, yes. Yes, I mean, just do you want to be happy, Joe? Yes or no? Like, make a decision. And if you want to be happy, be intentional, and your path will become so much more clearer. I, for one, no longer settle for anything. Like, obviously, there are situations where you must compromise and all of that. But if I know that ultimately settling is going to make me unhappy for anything I do, friendships, love, business, family relationships, a book I'm going to read, a TV series I'm going to invest my time in, if it's not going to make me happy, I really, really, really don't want to have a long debate about it. I just want to not even, entertain the thought of anything that won't make me happy. And that's that on that. Next up is A Return to Love. Do, 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 do. Up next, A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson, excuse me. Oh, I love this book. I love this book. I love this book. I bought it maybe in 2017 as well. I picked it up, 2017. I picked it up, read a few pages, and I was like, this is a really great book. And then, I don't know what happened. I just stopped reading it, but I really, really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. Yeah, I enjoyed it, and I don't know why I had put it down. Then the next time I picked it up was maybe 3 months after the initial purchase. And wow, I was like, okay, I shouldn't have read too much into this book. It's actually very simple. All this book is saying is that love is in every single thing we do. God is love. Love is all around us. Love is in the way you treat yourself. You look at yourself. Love is in the way you treat relationships, whether it's friendships or family or intimate relationships. Love is in the way you treat people who you do not know. Love is in the way you treat things which are new to you. And love is in everything you do. Your work, if you do it with love, it will speak for itself. The quality of your work will speak for itself. And it just reminds us to keep going back to love in everything we do. The long and short of this book is that love is in everything we do. And it's such a beautiful reminder. There are some lessons that have helped me be a better parent, literally. I just can't remember the exact passage, but it just goes back to being compassionate towards your children, being compassionate towards everybody really, and just showing love in everything you do. That basically, even if your children are being naughty or whatever, and you actually correct them with love and not with punishment, then they grow up to be loving human beings. I love that. That is the quote right there, I think. And then I reread it this year, maybe a month ago, a few weeks ago actually, and I found it teaching me about forgiveness a lot. I went through a personal breakup, if I can call it, with a friend, and this book was just it doesn't matter anymore. Just forgive so that you can move on and live a happier life. And one day I literally made that decision. I woke up and I made the decision that I am going to forgive this person for hurting me, and I am going to now treat this situation with love and put love into it and see what that will do for me. And honestly speaking, after having that conversation with the person who did me wrong, I really felt the biggest weight be uplifted off my shoulders. It was actually something phenomenal. It was out of this world. It was an out of body experience, if I can put it that way. And I am just grateful. I don't want to live hating anybody for anything or hating anything for anything. I am going to always try to step back from a situation and see if I can treat it with forgiveness rather than with anger for myself. I'm very happy to live a life where I'm just forgiving and I'm just happy for me, not for anybody else. So A Return to Love, definitely one of my favorite return to books. I found the quote that, or rather the passage that was making me very, very involved in, being a better mom. And it just goes to say relationships are meaningful because they are opportunities to expand our hearts and become more deeply loving. The Holy Spirit is the medium of miracles, a guide to a different way of viewing ourselves in relation to other people. I watch my baby as she extends her love to everyone she meets. She hasn't learned yet that anyone is unsafe. Nothing stands between her natural impulse to love and her expression of that love. She smiles with tenderness of her true feelings. One day I'll have to teach her that not every expression of love is appropriate. That is very, very important, very important. But locking your door is vastly different from locking your heart. The greatest challenge of parenthood will be to support her in keeping an open heart while living in such a fearful world. We can't really give to our children what we don't have ourselves. In that sense, my greatest gift to my daughter is that I continue to work on myself. Children learn more through imitation than through any other form of instruction. Our greatest opportunity to positively affect another person's life is to accept God's love into our own. Right? That is one of the primary principles of miracles in relationships. We are to look to ourselves, our own lessons, thoughts, and behavior in order to find peace with another person. That is the passage that I really just thought, you know what, I'm going to be more compassionate towards my kids and I'm going to just teach them how to love.